It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. I met him at Fall, and at that time I was immediately struck by his impressive credentials and the benefit that he could bring to Tuskegee University. Robert Curbeam is Vice President of Mission Assurance, Quality, and Raytheon Six Sigma for Raytheon Integrated Defense Systems, IDS. Raytheon Company, with 2014 sales of $23 billion and 61,000 employees worldwide, is a technology and innovation leader specializing in defense, security, and civil markets throughout the world. It's headquartered in Waltham, Massachusetts. Headquartered in Tuskegee, Massachusetts, IDS has 28 locations around the world. Its broad portfolio of weapons, sensors, and integration systems supports its customer service base across multiple mission areas, including air and missile defense systems. In this role, Mr. Curbeam is responsible for the development and integration of Raytheon's mission assurance roadmap, execution of the quality management system, and continuous improvement across the business. He provides leadership across all levels of Raytheon to ensure flawless program execution and total customer service satisfaction. He is a proven leader in quality assurance, business management, and customer relations. Before joining Raytheon, he was the president of the Aerospace and Defense Division for ARES Corporation, responsible for business development and driving profit for non-operations. Prior to ARES, Curbeam was an astronaut with National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. He held a wide range of positions with NASA as a Director of Safety, Reliability, and Quality Assurance for the Constellation Program, Deputy Director of Flight Crew Operations, and Spacecraft Communicator, Capcom Branch Chief. Curbeam was second in command for safety across NASA as the Deputy Associate Administrator of Safety and Mission Assurance at NASA headquarters. During his tenure with NASA, he served on 3 space shuttle missions and 7 spacewalks. Curbeam retired from the U.S. Navy after 23 years of service. He's a graduate of the Navy Fighter Weapons School, Top Gun, and Navy Test Pilot School. He was the lead project manager officer for the F-14 Air-to-Ground Weapons Separation Flight Test Program and logged more than 3,000 flight hours in 25 different aircraft and spacecraft. He holds an advanced degree in aeronautical and astronautical engineering and master's of science degree in aeronautical engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. He received his bachelor degree with merit in aerospace engineering from the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. I could think of no one better on this Founders Day to speak about Tuskegee's tradition and also its trajectory. Without further ado, Mr. Curbeam.
Well, good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here to speak today. I'm proud, I'm honored, I'm humbled. I know what this day means to you guys, and I can't imagine a better way to spend a day but to get to talk to you guys about a little bit about my experience. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about leadership. And I know some of the alumni may sit here and go, well, you know, I'm pretty much towards the sunset of my career, but that doesn't mean that you aren't still leaders. You're still a part of what this institution is, what it does, and how it helps this country. And for the students, well, hopefully this is a little bit of a roadmap to tell you how you will help this country and how important it is that you do it. I want to start out by saying, you know, one of the key prerequisites to a great leader, if you want to be a good leader, you look at them across this country, across the world, they're all successful people, very successful people. And success isn't easy, but almost everyone you look at has those 3 basic tenets. They have those 3 basic things in being successful that they will tell you contributed to their success. One is they were all educated. And as my mother used to always tell me, education is never time wasted. You don't know when you're going to use that information. You don't even know if you're going to use that information, but having it is very, very important. I can remember many, many times when I knew something only through the experience that I had at the different schools I went to, and all of a sudden, in the most unlikely places, it becomes useful to me. And at those times, you can't go back and run back and remember it, then you got to get it the first time through, and then you can use it. The other one is hard work. There is not one successful person in this country that hasn't gotten there through hard work, because anything worth having is something that's wanted by many. So then, if all other things are equal, it comes down to who's willing to work the hardest to get it. Right? And the last is perseverance, because all successful people have failed somewhere along the line. I feel like I'm a successful person because I've been able to experience a lot of the things that I wanted to. I've been able to reach a lot of my goals, but believe me, it was not without many failures along the way. But if you persevere, if you're the kind of person that wants to try again, willing to accept that failure and move on, well, that is what will truly make you successful. And the Tuskegee experience teaches you all of that. And it's an important foundation, but it is not the end result. This is the start. This is where you start, and Tuskegee is recognized, especially among our people, as a leader in establishing that foundation for people who want to be successful and want to be leaders, like you will be and you are. So, what kinds of traits do true leaders have? If you want to be a leader in this country, in this world, somebody who inspires others to reach their potential and do great things, what kinds of things do you need to do moving forward once you have this education, this hard work ethic, this perseverance that Tuskegee teaches you? Well, I got 3 things that I want you to think about. Throughout your journey of success and leadership, you need to listen, you need to learn, and you need to be lucky. You need to be lucky. So let's talk about listening. The most important one is first, you need to listen. The one thing you will find out when you leave here is although you may think you know everything, you do not know everything. I thought I did. I'm a perfect example. I got out of the Naval Academy. I was an aerospace engineer. I was a good one. And I thought I knew everything. Well, it probably took about 2 months in flight school to figure out that I did not know everything. I certainly was not the best person in the class, but I damn sure was going to be. I decided that I was going to work hard and be that kind of person. I listened. And probably one lesson that I learned that has carried me through this is, like I said, you never know when the next great idea is going to come and who it's going to come from. Last July, I came to this campus and I visited with Dean Burge. We had met before, but I became the campus rep for Raytheon. And I walked around and he took me through all the engineering labs, and they also took me to the business school. Wait a minute, Tuskegee's an engineering school, right? You guys don't have a business school. Well, in fact, you do. And you got a veterinary school and a nursing school. I listened all day because I did not know. And then he showed me a lab that I had no idea that any college had, and that was a corrosion lab. And guess what? Guess what Raytheon has a problem with? Corrosion. We build a lot of things that go a lot of places in environments that are very, very difficult to maintain our equipment. And we found out that, hey, they wanted to do some research that we were very, very thankful to get the results from. Imagine that. So by listening to what he had to say, instead of going with my preconceived notion about what Tuskegee was all about, I learned that I had a great asset in this university. And we're in the process of making that agreement formal so we can actually have students here do research that will help us. And that came from listening. The next one is learning, and it's an integral part of that listening. Like I said, I didn't know everything when I got out of college. I thought I did, but I didn't. But learning is a lifelong endeavor. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, no matter what you do, you will always learn. You learn how to learn here, you'll practice it throughout your leadership experience. The first thing you need to do when you go and assume those leadership positions is learn what your people do, how they do it, when they do it, why they do it. When you do that, that enables you to be the leader that they need. Because now they want to tell you. They want you to know what's important to them. They want you to help them. But you can't do it if you don't learn the craft. And you will be learning for the rest of your life. It's important if you're going to be a good leader. When I took over the Capcom branch, which the president alluded to earlier, Capcom branch is a group of astronauts that sit in mission control, and they talk to the astronauts who are on orbit. And that was a job I had had before, but then I became the leader of the branch after my second flight. Well, of course, I knew everything, right? I'd done the job. I'd done the job, but I didn't. The job had changed. We had added a new spacecraft onto the responsibility of being a Capcom, or what we call spacecraft communicator. We had a new spacecraft. We had new astronauts who were in the office. And it was important that I learn from the people who were doing the job then how to be their leader. It was very, very important to learn from them what they did and how they did it. Find out the hours that they were working. Find out what they didn't like about it. Because it had gone from a position of Capcom being the person who was responsible for communication to space that everybody wanted to do to a branch that nobody wanted to be in. And I was determined as a leader to change that. But I couldn't do it without first learning what was wrong. Because to me, it hadn't changed, but it had. So learning is always important. And the last, and probably the least important, but the one you can start on now, is to be lucky. Be lucky. And people always say, how can I be lucky? Well, it depends on how you define luck. A friend of mine and I were talking yesterday, and when I told him, I said, you know, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's luck. You're preparing yourself now, but once again, it's something you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. You always have to prepare for that opportunity to come. Because as my mother also said to me, when opportunity knocks, it knocks very softly. And you have to recognize it. And it's not easy to recognize the opportunities. But when they come, you have to seize them. You have to be willing to take the job that someone else doesn't want to take because it was too hard. But you know that it's going to help you in the long run. You've got to be able to recognize opportunities that will not only pay off in the short term for you, but in the long term for you. When I was in test pilot school, I was fortunate enough to take a field trip. And that field trip was to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. When I went down there, I met this wonderful woman. Her name was Kathy Thorne. And she stood in front of our whole test pilot school class, and she showed us a film, a video. And that video was about her first space flight. And I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then I was lucky enough to sit across from her at lunch. And I listened to her, and I go, wait a minute, I want to be like her. She looks like she's having fun. She's doing something really interesting. I want to do what she does. And so after we took the field trip, I went to my mentor. My mentor was a man named Dave Kennedy, and he was at test pilot school. And I said, what do I have to do to make this happen? What do I have to do to be eligible? And he sat there and he looked through what I'd had. I had 2 graduate degrees in aerospace engineering. I was a Naval Academy grad. Had a lot of flight time in the F-14 at that point. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you're qualified. He goes, you should apply next time. Now, did I have all that in mind when I was doing those things, preparing myself for that opportunity? No. I was going to get out of the Navy and be an aerospace engineer. I was an engineer. That's what I love doing. But when the opportunity presented itself, because I had prepared myself before, I was eligible to do this. These are the kinds of things that we have to think about all the time. What you're learning and what you're doing right now might not be applicable to what's next, but maybe it's applicable to what's after what's next. Maybe it's applicable and will help you 10, 20, 30 years from now. That's what's important. Prepare yourself now for today, next year, next decade, for a lifetime. Now, I am, like I said, humbled to be here, because not far from here, the Tuskegee Airmen paved the way for me, so I could do the things that I wanted to do. And I want you to do the same for someone else. Thank you.
I don't think we fully appreciate what we have just witnessed and observed. A man whose credentials surpass many of us, including myself in this room, tearing at the thought of being not merely 5 miles away from the place where Tuskegee Airmen in this very community led not only this community, this county, this state, this nation, this world, with tears in his eyes. That is passion. That's integrity. That's knowledge. And that's a man who will go on, I'm sure, to do many, many, many more great things in his life. And I salute you, my brother.